The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Jack Morrison walked through them with steady steps, his black shoes clicking against the polished floor. Behind him, his aide Lisa Chen carried a stack of documents and a datapad. The chamber was circular with seats arranged in tiers like an ancient amphitheater. Representatives from dozens of star systems sat in their designated places. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few floated in special tanks filled with their native atmosphere. Jack took his seat at the human delegation's desk. The nameplate read United Earth Government in multiple alien scripts. He straightened his gray suit and placed his hands flat on the smooth surface. Across the chamber, Supreme Chancellor Kivex of the Thraxian Empire rose from his seat. The Thraxian stood 9 feet tall, with dark purple skin and 4 muscular arms. His yellow eyes narrowed as he looked at the human delegation. "We have been patient," Kivex said, his voice deep and rumbling through the universal translator. "For 3 months we have listened to human excuses. The time for talk is over." Jack remained calm. He had expected this moment. The negotiations about the border disputes in the Orion sector had been going nowhere. Every compromise the humans offered was rejected by the Thraxians. "Chancellor Kivex," Jack replied, standing slowly. "Earth has offered 17 different proposals. We suggested shared mining rights. We proposed joint patrols. We even offered to reduce our colony presence by 30%. The Thraxian leader slammed one of his fists on his desk. "Not enough. All human colonies in disputed space must be abandoned. You have 1 standard week to comply." Murmurs filled the chamber. The other alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Eldari ambassador, a being with blue feathers and large golden eyes, raised a delicate hand. "Surely there is room for further discussion," the Eldari said in a melodic voice. "War benefits no one." Kivex turned his massive head toward the Eldari. "The Thraxian Empire has made its position clear. Humans are spreading too quickly. They take resources that belong to others. This must stop." Jack felt Lisa touch his elbow lightly. She showed him her datapad. The message from Earth Command was brief. "Negotiations terminated. Initiate Protocol 7. He nodded once. Protocol 7 meant full withdrawal of diplomatic personnel and preparation for potential conflict. Earth had seen this coming. "Very well," Jack said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "If the Thraxian Empire refuses all reasonable compromise, then these negotiations are over." The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Several ambassadors stood up. The Vegan representative, a tall being with gray skin and large black eyes, spoke urgently. "Ambassador Morrison, please reconsider. Dialogue is the path to peace." Jack began gathering his documents. Lisa was already packing their equipment. "We tried dialogue for 3 months. The Thraxians want total surrender, not compromise." Kivex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the chamber walls. "See how the humans run when faced with real power. They are weak. They will abandon their colonies without a fight." Jack paused at the chamber door. He turned back to face the assembled aliens. "Earth is recalling all diplomatic staff from Thraxian space. Our embassies will close within 24 hours. We strongly advise all neutral parties to evacuate the disputed sectors." The Eldari ambassador fluttered forward. "But what about the trade agreements, the cultural exchanges? Millions of beings depend on human commerce. All civilian traffic through disputed space will cease immediately," Jack replied. "Human merchant vessels are being recalled. Our citizens on foreign worlds are being advised to return home." This announcement caused even more chaos. The humans were one of the major trading powers in the galaxy. Their sudden withdrawal would affect countless worlds. Kivex seemed pleased. "Let them go. The galaxy will see that the Thraxian Empire cannot be challenged." Jack looked directly at the Thraxian leader. "You mistake our departure for retreat, Chancellor. That is a dangerous assumption." With that, he and Lisa left the chamber. As they walked down the corridor toward their ship, Lisa finally spoke. "Do you think they understand what's happening?" Jack shook his head. "Most of them don't. They think we're afraid. They don't realize we're clearing the battlefield." Their footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. Through the windows, they could see the vast expanse of space and the distant stars that humans now called home. "How long before the fleets are in position?" Lisa asked. "Admiral Wells has been preparing for weeks. The automated defense platforms are already being deployed. By the time Kivex realizes his mistake, it will be too late." They reached the docking bay where their diplomatic shuttle waited. The pilot, a young man named Tom Brady, was already running pre-flight checks. "Ambassador," Tom said, looking up from his controls. "I just got word. All human ships are pulling out of Thraxian space. It's a complete withdrawal." Jack nodded as he took his seat. "Good. The fewer civilians in the area, the better." As their shuttle lifted off from the station, Jack watched the Galactic Council building shrink in the viewport. He had spent 3 months trying to prevent this outcome. Now all he could do was watch as humanity prepared for what came next. The shuttle's communication system chimed. It was a message from President Amy Johnson on Earth. "Jack," her voice came through clearly, "you did everything you could. Come home. We have work to do." "Understood, Madam President," Jack replied. "The Thraxians gave us no choice." "No, they didn't. But they're about to learn why that was a mistake." The shuttle entered hyperspace, leaving the council station behind. Across human space, a transformation was beginning. Merchant ships returned to port. Mining operations shut down. Diplomatic missions closed their doors. To most observers, it looked like humanity was retreating. The Thraxians celebrated, believing they had won without firing a shot. The other alien races worried about the economic impact of human withdrawal. None of them understood what was really happening. Humans weren't running away. They were preparing. They were positioning their forces. They were activating defense, systems that had been secretly installed over years. In the depths of space, automated platforms powered up. Hidden fleets moved into position. Reserve forces were called to active duty. The entire human military machine was coming online. Jack looked at the star map on his display. Red markers showed Thraxian fleet positions. Blue markers indicated human forces. The Thraxians had numerical superiority, but they didn't know about humanity's hidden assets. "They think we're weak because we prefer peace," Jack said quietly. Lisa nodded. "They'll learn. When humans abandon peace talks, it's not because we can't fight. It's because we'd rather not show them what happens when we do." The shuttle continued its journey toward Earth. Behind them, the galaxy held its breath, unaware that the real storm was just beginning to gather. The bridge of the USS Resolute hummed with quiet activity. Admiral Susan Wells stood before the main view screen, watching the stars streak past as her flagship moved through hyperspace. Her gray uniform was pressed perfectly, 4 stars gleaming on her collar. A soft chime announced an incoming priority message. Lieutenant Dan Foster looked up from his communication station. "Admiral, encrypted transmission from Earth Command." "Put it through to my ready room," Susan ordered. She walked to the small office adjacent to the bridge and sealed the door behind her. The message was brief but clear. Peace talks had failed. Operation Stormwall was now active. All civilian vessels were to evacuate disputed territories within 48 hours. Susan read the orders twice, then pressed the intercom. "All senior staff to the briefing room in 10 minutes. When she entered the briefing room, her officers were already assembled. Captain Mike Rodriguez sat to her right, his dark eyes studying a tactical display. Commander Helen Park from Engineering occupied the next seat, followed by the rest of the department heads. "The peace talks have collapsed," Susan announced without preamble. "The Thraxians issued an ultimatum. We have 1 week to abandon all colonies in disputed space." Mike leaned forward. "What's our response?" "We're implementing Operation Stormwall. All civilian traffic is being evacuated. Military assets are moving to predetermined positions." Helen pulled up a holographic map of the sector. "Admiral, the Thraxians have 3 battle fleets near our colonies. Each fleet has at least 40 ships." "I'm aware, Commander. That's why we're activating the reserve fleets." Susan touched the display, highlighting several points. "These locations have been prepared for months. Automated defense platforms, hidden weapon caches, and stealth minefields." Lieutenant Colonel Bill Grant from Marine Operations raised his hand. What about our people on the ground? Colony evacuations begin immediately. Priority goes to families, with children, medical personnel, and essential civilians. Military personnel will remain to oversee the withdrawal. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They had all known this day might come, but hoping for peace had been natural. Susan continued. The Thraxians believe our withdrawal signals weakness. They're wrong. We're clearing the area of non-combatants before things get messy. She activated another display showing fleet movements. The 5th and 7th fleets are already in position. The 3rd fleet will arrive in 18 hours. Reserve units are mobilizing across human space. What about our allies? Mike asked. The Centauri Republic has pledged full support. The Vegan Confederation is mobilizing their border forces. Most others are declaring neutrality. Helen studied the tactical data. The automated platforms, are they fully operational? Project Iron Wall went live 6 hours ago. Every human colony now has AI-controlled defense systems. They're programmed to remain dormant until activated. Across human space, the withdrawal was already beginning. On the colony world of New Houston, crowds gathered at the spaceport. Families clutched their belongings as they boarded evacuation ships. Governor Sam Taylor watched from his office window. His aide, Jenny Martinez, entered with another status report. Governor, we've evacuated 60% of the civilian population. The remaining transports arrive in 4 hours. Sam nodded. What about the industrial facilities? All critical. Equipment is being removed or destroyed. We're leaving nothing useful behind. Good. The Thraxians want our colonies? They'll get empty shells. In the Sigma Draconis system, Captain Laura Hughes commanded the destroyer USS Thunder. Her ship was part of the picket line monitoring Thraxian fleet movements. Captain, her tactical officer, Lieutenant Jim Moore, called out. Thraxian ships are massing near the border. Looks like they're preparing to move. Track them, but don't engage. Our orders are to observe only. Understood, Captain. Should I alert command? Already done. They know the Thraxians are getting bold. On Earth's moon, President Amy Johnson stood in the Strategic Command Center. Massive screens displayed real-time data from across human space. Colored dots represented ships, stations, and colonies. General Frank Williams pointed to a cluster of red dots. Madam President, the Thraxians are moving faster than expected. They're positioning forces near all disputed colonies. They think we're running, Amy said quietly. Let them. Are the automated systems ready? Yes, ma'am. Orbital defense platforms. Ground-based weapons, smart mines, everything is in place. We just need to activate them. Not yet. Let the Thraxians commit their forces first. In the Thraxian Empire, Supreme Chancellor Kivex celebrated in his war room. Military commanders and political advisors surrounded him, all sharing his confidence. Look how they flee, Kivex boomed. Human ships evacuating in panic, their colonies being abandoned. We have won without firing a shot. General Teketh, his senior military advisor, seemed less certain. Supreme Chancellor, our intelligence suggests the human withdrawal is organized. Too organized. You worry too much, General. The humans are cowards. They talk of compromise but run when faced with strength. Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures near the evacuated colonies. They could be nothing, Kivex interrupted. Order our fleets to advance. Claim those worlds before the humans change their minds. Back on the USS Resolute, Admiral Wells received continuous updates. The evacuation was proceeding smoothly. Military assets were in position. The Thraxians were taking the bait. Admiral, Dan Foster reported. All civilian ships have cleared the disputed zones. Military vessels are holding at designated coordinates. Susan nodded. Excellent, and the Thraxians? Moving exactly as predicted. They're sending their fleets toward our abandoned colonies. She smiled grimly. They're walking right into it. Maintain current positions, let them think they've won. In the depths of space, hidden systems waited patiently. Thousands of stealth mines floated silently. Automated defense platforms powered down to minimal signatures. Human warships lurked in sensor shadows. The galaxy watched as humanity appeared to retreat. News networks broadcast images of empty human colonies. Alien commentators discussed the apparent human surrender. The Thraxians boasted of their bloodless victory. None of them understood what was really happening. The withdrawal wasn't a retreat. It was the calm before the storm. Every abandoned colony was a trap. Every fleeing civilian ship cleared the way for military action. Susan Wells stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display. The Thraxian fleets were moving deeper into the trap. Soon, they would learn why humans preferred peace. Not because they were weak, but because the alternative was so much worse. The countdown had begun. In 72 hours, the Thraxians would discover their mistake, and the galaxy would learn why humans tried so hard to avoid war. Supreme Chancellor Kivek strode into the Thraxian War Council chamber with the confidence of a conqueror. His 4 arms swung freely as he walked, purple skin gleaming under the harsh lights. The other Thraxian leaders rose as he entered. "Fellow warriors," Kivek announced, "the humans have shown their true nature. They flee like scared animals before our might. Not a single shot fired, and already they abandoned their colonies." The assembled generals and admirals cheered. Their mandibles clicked in approval. Only General Teketh remained silent, studying the tactical displays with concerned eyes. "Supreme Chancellor," Teketh said carefully, "our intelligence reports something unusual. The human withdrawal is too organized, too precise." Kivek waved 2 of his arms dismissively. "You see shadows where none exist, General. The humans are evacuating civilians and dismantling their bases, clear signs of defeat. But sir, they're not dismantling everything. Our scans show strange energy signatures near the colonies, patterns we've never seen before. New technology. They're testing in panic, nothing more. Order our fleets to advance and claim those worlds before some other species decides to take them." Admiral Kazar stepped forward. "My fleet is ready to occupy the Kepler system. 3 human colonies there, all reportedly abandoned. Excellent. Move in immediately. Show the galaxy that Thraxian power cannot be challenged." On Earth's moon, President Amy Johnson watched the Thraxian fleet movements on the massive displays in the Strategic Command Center. Around her, military, officers and civilian advisors monitored countless data streams. Madam President, Defense Secretary Pete Williams reported, "The Thraxians are taking the bait. 3 battle fleets are moving into the Kepler system right now." Amy's expression remained calm. "Are all our assets in position?" "Yes, ma'am. Admiral Wells confirms the fleet is ready. The automated defenses are on standby. They'll activate the moment the Thraxians commit to their positions." "What about our allies?" "The Centauri are maintaining defensive positions along their border. The Vegans have quietly moved 2 fleets closer to the disputed zones. They're being careful not to appear threatening." Amy nodded. "Good. We need witnesses for what's about to happen." In the Kepler system, the abandoned human colonies sat silent. Empty cities, powered-down factories, and vacant orbital stations gave the appearance of hasty retreat. But hidden among the debris fields and asteroid belts, thousands of stealth mines waited patiently. The Thraxian fleet emerged from hyperspace with military precision. Dozens of warships spread out in attack formation, scanning for any signs of resistance. "Admiral Kazar," reported the sensor officer. "No human vessels detected. The colonies appear completely abandoned." Kazar's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "Begin landing operations. Secure the orbital facilities first, then the planetary surfaces. Sir, we're detecting some unusual energy readings. Probably automated systems shutting down. Proceed with the occupation." As Thraxian ships moved deeper into the system, human stealth platforms hidden in the system's gas giant began powering up. Quantum communicators linked them to Admiral Wells's fleet, waiting just outside sensor range. On the bridge of the USS Resolute, Admiral Wells watched the tactical display with professional detachment. Her crew worked with quiet efficiency, everyone knowing their role in the coming battle. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "Thraxian forces have entered the engagement zone. They're spreading out to claim multiple targets simultaneously." Wells nodded. They're overconfident, dividing their forces. Exactly as we predicted. Should we activate the defense grid? Not yet. Let them think they've won. We need them fully committed before we spring the trap. Inside the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions had been called. Representatives from dozens of species watched the unfolding situation with growing concern. The humans have truly abandoned the disputed territories, observed the Eldari ambassador. Most unexpected behavior from such an aggressive species. The Saurian representative's scales shifted to a worried purple. Perhaps we misjudged them. They speak of peace, and actually mean it. Or perhaps, suggested the Vegan ambassador quietly, we are witnessing something else entirely. Back in the Kepler system, Thraxian assault shuttles approached the empty orbital stations. Marine forces prepared to board and claim their prizes. Colonel Karash led the first boarding team. No resistance detected. Move in and secure the command center. His troops entered the station, finding it dark and seemingly abandoned. Computer systems were powered down. Life support operated at minimum levels. Sir, one of his soldiers reported, this is strange. They left in a hurry, but they took time to remove specific equipment. Only military hardware is gone. Civilian systems are intact but deactivated. Before Karash could respond, his communicator crackled. Colonel, this is Fleet Command. We're detecting massive energy, spikes throughout the system, source unknown. On Earth, President Johnson received the update she'd been waiting for. Madam President, the Thraxians have fully committed their forces. All 3 fleets are now deep inside the engagement zones. Amy took a deep breath. Activate Iron Wall. All units. Weapons free. The signal went out instantly. Across the Kepler system, hidden defense platforms came online. Stealth mines activated their targeting systems. Automated weapons satellites dropped their disguises. Admiral Khazar barely had time to process the sudden sensor warnings before his fleet was engulfed in coordinated weapons fire. Mines detonated with surgical precision. Energy beams lanced out from platforms that hadn't existed moments before. Ambush, Khazar screamed. All ships, evasive action. But it was too late. The Thraxians had walked directly into a carefully prepared killing field. Every move they made had been predicted. Every escape route had been mined. On the USS Resolute, Admiral Wells gave the order her crew had been waiting for. All ships drop stealth, engage at will. The human fleet appeared as if from nowhere, emerging from the gas giant's sensor shadow with weapons already locked on target. The combined firepower of 3 fleet groups supported by automated defenses created a storm of destruction. The Thraxian flagship shuddered under multiple impacts, shields failing, armor buckling, systems overloading. Admiral Khazar watched in horror as a third of his fleet was destroyed in the opening minutes. Impossible, he gasped. How could they deploy such defenses without us knowing? Sir, his tactical officer shouted over the alarms. These platforms, they're not new. Scan data suggests they've been here for months, maybe years. Hidden, waiting. Khazar's 4 eyes widened in terrible understanding. They knew. They've been preparing for this. The peace talks, the negotiations, all of it was to buy time. In the War Council chamber, Kvex watched the tactical feeds in stunned silence as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed. The celebrating generals had gone quiet, their earlier confidence evaporating. General Teketh stepped forward. Supreme Chancellor, I recommend immediate withdrawal of our remaining forces. Withdraw? Kvex snarled. And admit defeat? Better defeat than annihilation. The humans prepared for this. Every move we've made played into their hands. The tactical displays showed the truth. Thraxian ships were being destroyed faster than they could respond. The humans fought with mechanical precision, their automated systems and coordinated fleet actions creating an inescapable web of destruction. Within an hour, it was over. The Kepler system was littered with Thraxian wreckage. The few surviving, ships limped away, their crews traumatized by the sudden reversal. Admiral Wells surveyed the aftermath with grim satisfaction. Signal all commands, Phase 1 complete. Prepare for diplomatic contact. The galaxy had just learned a valuable lesson. When humans abandon peace talks, they're not retreating. They're preparing for war. And when humans prepare for war, they don't do it halfway. The silence before the storm had ended. Now came the thunder. The bridge of the Thraxian flagship Dominator shook violently as another explosion rocked its hull. Admiral Khazar gripped his command chair with all four hands, purple blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. Shields at 15%. His tactical officer screamed over the alarms. "We've lost contact with half our fleet." Through the view screen, Khazar watched his mighty armada being torn apart. What should have been a simple occupation of abandoned colonies had become a massacre. Human warships appeared from nowhere, supported by thousands of automated weapons platforms. How? Khazar gasped. How did they hide all this? Another blast struck the ship. Sparks showered from damaged consoles. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the red glow of emergency power. "Admiral," the navigation officer called out. "The Iron Storm and Pride of Kivex have been destroyed." Khazar felt his heart sink. Those were two of their newest battleships, each carrying 5,000 crew members. Gone in minutes. The tactical display showed the true scope of the disaster. The Thraxian fleet had jumped into the Kepler system expecting to claim empty colonies. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by a carefully prepared kill zone. Stealth mines had activated the moment the Thraxian ships committed to their positions. Hidden in asteroid fields and debris clouds, these weapons had waited patiently, for months. They struck with surgical precision, targeting engines and weapon systems. Then came the automated defense platforms, disguised as space junk or hidden in the shadows of moons. These AI-controlled weapons unleashed devastating firepower. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and particle beams created overlapping fields of death. Finally, the human fleet itself emerged from hiding. Admiral Susan Wells had positioned her ships in the magnetic field of the system's gas giant, invisible to Thraxian sensors. 3 full battle groups appeared simultaneously, weapons already locked on target. "Sir," the communications officer shouted. "Message from the humans!" Khazar wiped purple blood from his eyes. "Put it through." Admiral Wells appeared on the damaged view screen. Her face was calm, professional. "Thraxian vessels, this is Admiral Wells of the United Earth Fleet. You are ordered to cease fire and withdraw immediately. This is your only warning." Khazar snarled, his mandibles clicking in rage. "You dare give orders after this ambush? This is an act of war." Wells raised an eyebrow. "Your forces invaded our space after we withdrew from negotiations. You chose war, Admiral. We simply prepared for it." Another explosion shook the Dominator. More reports flooded in. The battleship Wrath of the Empire was breaking apart. The carrier Voidhammer had lost all power. "Admiral," Wells continued, "I strongly advise you to retreat while you still can. Our automated defenses will not discriminate between active and disabled vessels." Khazar looked at his tactical display. In 20 minutes of combat, he had lost 60% of his fleet. The humans had lost 3 destroyers and a handful of fighters. "All ships," Khazar ordered through gritted teeth. "Emergency withdrawal. Fall back to Thraxian space." The surviving Thraxian vessels turned and fled. As they retreated, Khazar noticed something that chilled him to his core. The human ships weren't pursuing. They were simply watching. "Why aren't they following?" he asked aloud. His sensor officer had the answer. "Sir, they don't need to. The entire system is covered by overlapping fields of fire. Any ship that enters without their permission will be destroyed automatically." Khazar finally understood. The humans hadn't just prepared defenses for one battle. They had turned the entire Kepler system into a fortress. Every approach route was mined. Every strategic position held automated weapons. The system could defend itself without a single human present. Back on Earth, President Amy Johnson watched the battle's conclusion from the Strategic Command Center. Military advisors and political leaders surrounded her. "Madam President," General Williams reported, "the Thraxian fleet is in full retreat. We estimate they've lost over 200 ships. Our losses? 3 destroyers, 8 fighters. All automated platforms remain operational. Secretary of Defense Pete Williams leaned forward. Should we pursue? Amy shook her head. No, we've made our point. Order Admiral Wells to hold position. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread quickly. The Thraxian Empire, which had boasted of its military superiority just hours before, had been devastated in a single engagement. On the Thraxian homeworld, Supreme Chancellor Kvex faced his war. Council, the earlier celebration had turned to shock and anger. This is impossible, Kvex roared. How could the humans deploy such defenses without our knowledge? General Teketh stepped forward. Supreme Chancellor, it appears the humans have been preparing for this scenario for years. Every system they colonized included hidden defensive networks. Years? Kvex's 4 eyes widened. They planned this while negotiating peace. It seems they hoped for peace but prepared for war. When you issued your ultimatum, you activated a trap they had already set. Another general spoke up. We've analyzed the battle data. The human defenses operate on artificial intelligence. They can function indefinitely without human oversight. Kvex slumped in his chair. So even if we destroyed their fleet, the systems would continue to defend themselves, Teketh confirmed. The humans call it the Iron Wall Protocol. Every human colony has these defenses. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions were being held. Representatives who had dismissed human concerns now watched footage of the battle with growing unease. The Eldari ambassador addressed the assembly. The humans warned us they were withdrawing to prevent bloodshed. We thought they were capitulating. The vegan representative nodded slowly. Instead, they were clearing the battlefield, removing civilians from harm's way before unleashing their military capabilities. But such defenses must have taken years to build, protested the Saurian delegate. Were they planning for war all along? Ambassador Jack Morrison had returned to the council as Earth's representative. He stood to address the chamber. We weren't planning for war, Jack explained. We were preparing for the possibility that diplomacy might fail. Every human colony is precious to us. We protect what we value. By turning them into fortresses, the Thraxian representative demanded, by ensuring that any aggressor pays a heavy price for attacking them. Jack replied calmly. We offered 17 different compromises. Your empire rejected them all and demanded our complete surrender. You forced us to reveal our defensive capabilities. The chamber fell silent. The implications were clear. Humanity hadn't just defended one system. They had revealed that every human colony was similarly protected. The Thraxian Empire requested an immediate ceasefire. Within hours, their delegation arrived at a neutral station for talks. This time, there would be no ultimatums. Admiral Khazar, one of the few surviving fleet commanders, accompanied the diplomats. His ship had barely made it back to Thraxian space. We underestimated you, Khazar admitted to Admiral Wells during the negotiations. Wells nodded. Many species do. We prefer peace not because we're weak, but because we understand the true cost of war. Your defenses, how many systems have them? All of them. Khazar's mandibles twitched. All? Every single human colony, no matter how small. We learned long ago that the best way to maintain peace is to make war too costly for any aggressor. The negotiations proceeded swiftly. The Thraxian Empire agreed to respect existing borders. The disputed colonies would remain under human control. Trade would resume, but under new terms that respected human sovereignty. As the treaty was signed, the galaxy understood a fundamental truth about humanity. They would always choose peace when possible, but when forced to fight, they would do so with overwhelming force and careful preparation. The Iron Wall Protocol became legendary. Other species began requesting human assistance in developing their own defensive networks. Humanity's approach to warfare, preparing extensively while hoping never to fight, became a model for other civilizations. The Thraxians never again challenged human space. They had learned, at great cost, why humans worked so hard to maintain peace. It wasn't weakness that drove human diplomacy. It was the knowledge of their own strength and the desire never to use it. The Galactic Council chamber looked different this time. The atmosphere had changed completely from 3 months ago when humanity had walked away from the peace talks. Now, every representative sat straighter, paid closer attention, and spoke, with more respect when addressing the human delegation. Ambassador Jack Morrison returned to his seat at the human delegation's desk. This time, however, he was accompanied by Fleet Admiral Carlos Reyes, whose crisp military uniform displayed rows of medals and commendations. The message was clear. Humanity now spoke with both diplomatic and military authority. The Thraxian delegation approached the human desk before the session began. The new ambassador, Viren, was notably different from his predecessor. Where Kvex had been arrogant and demanding, Viren approached with careful respect. Ambassador Morrison, Viren said, his translator rendering his clicks and growls into smooth English. The Thraxian Empire wishes to discuss terms for lasting peace. Jack smiled without warmth. Of course, Ambassador Viren. Please take a seat. Let's begin with the complete withdrawal of all Thraxian forces from disputed space. Viren's 4 hands clasped together in what Jack had learned was a gesture of agreement. We accept this condition. Our remaining forces have already begun pulling back. Admiral Reyes leaned forward. We'll also need access to your border sensor networks. Trust must be rebuilt through transparency. Agreed, Viren said quickly. 2. Quickly. The Thraxians were desperate to end this conflict before more of their weaknesses were exposed. The Eldari ambassador watched this exchange with her large golden eyes. She had witnessed the entire crisis from beginning to end. Now she understood what she had missed before. Humanity's patience hadn't been weakness, but strategy. As the formal session began, President Amy Johnson appeared via holographic projection from Earth. Her image stood tall and clear in the center of the chamber. Distinguished representatives, she began. 3 months ago, humanity left these chambers because diplomacy had failed. We did not want war. We still do not want war. But we will not allow our people to be threatened or our colonies to be taken by force. The chamber remained absolutely silent. Every being present remembered the footage of the Kepler battle, the systematic destruction of the Thraxian fleet. Today, Amy continued, we return to this chamber not as conquerors, but as members of this galactic community who simply wish to live in peace. We propose a new framework for resolving disputes. She gestured, and a holographic document appeared. The Stellar Peace Protocol. Under this agreement, any territorial disputes must go through a 3-stage process: negotiation, mediation, and, if necessary, arbitration by neutral parties. The Vegan ambassador raised a slender hand. And if a party refuses this process? Amy's expression hardened slightly. Then all signatories will impose economic sanctions. Military action becomes an absolute last resort, and only with council approval. Jack took over the presentation. Furthermore, we propose the creation of neutral zones. These disputed territories will be jointly administered by all interested parties. No single species can claim exclusive control. The Saurian representative's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. This would prevent future conflicts over border regions. Exactly, Jack confirmed. Resources would be shared according to contribution and need. Scientific research would be open to all participants. Admiral Reyes added, we're also offering to share defensive technology. Not weapons, but shield systems and early warning networks. Every species should be able to protect their homes. This announcement caused excited murmurs throughout the chamber. Human defensive technology had proven incredibly effective. Many smaller species had lived in fear of larger empires. This offer could change the balance of power significantly. The Thraxian ambassador spoke up. The Thraxian Empire formally accepts these proposals. We recognize the wisdom in seeking peaceful solutions. Over the following weeks, the Stellar Peace Protocol was refined and signed by every major galactic power. The disputed territories became the first neutral zones, with human, Thraxian, and other species working together to manage them. On the former battleground of the Kepler system, something remarkable happened. The debris was cleared and a new space station was constructed. Named Unity Station, it became a symbol of cooperation between former enemies. Captain Laura Hughes, who had commanded a destroyer during the crisis, was assigned as the station's first administrator. She worked alongside her Thraxian counterpart, Commander Tavel, to establish protocols for joint operations. "Strange, isn't it?" Laura said one day as they watched ships from multiple species dock at the station. "A month ago we were preparing to kill each other." Tavel's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "My people learned a valuable lesson. We thought humans were weak because you preferred talking to fighting. And now? Now we understand. You talk because you know what happens when talking fails." The economic recovery was swift. Trade routes reopened, cultural exchanges resumed, but something fundamental had changed in how humanity was perceived. On Earth, military academies began receiving applications from other species. The human approach to warfare, extensive preparation combined with genuine desire for peace, became a subject of study throughout the galaxy. General Taketh, who had warned Kivex about the human withdrawal, was invited to speak at the Galactic Military Academy. His lecture drew representatives from dozens of species. The humans did not hide their strength, he explained. They simply chose not to display it unnecessarily. Every colony they established included defensive systems. Every trade route had hidden protection. They prepared for war while working for peace. A young Eldari officer raised a feathered hand. But such preparations must cost enormous resources. Taketh nodded. Yes, but humans consider it worthwhile. They learned from their own history that being unprepared invites aggression. They choose to pay for defense in peacetime rather than pay in lives during war. 6 months after the Kepler incident, Ambassador Morrison addressed the Galactic Council one final time before rotating back to Earth. "When we abandoned these peace talks," he said, "many thought we were retreating in fear. Instead, we were positioning ourselves to negotiate from strength, not because we wanted to use that strength, but because sometimes it's the only language aggressors understand." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. "Humanity will always prefer diplomacy. We will talk until talking becomes pointless, but when words fail, we will act decisively. This is not a threat. It's a promise to protect our people and our allies." The Council voted unanimously to make the Stellar Peace Protocol permanent. The neutral zones expanded to include other disputed regions. Former enemies found themselves working side by side. In her final report on the crisis, Admiral Wells wrote, "The galaxy learned why humans invest so heavily in diplomacy. It's not because we fear war. It's because we understand it too well. When humans abandon peace talks, we're not giving up on peace. We're preparing to enforce it." The Thraxian Empire never again challenged human space. Other aggressive species reconsidered their expansion plans. The balance of power shifted not through conquest, but through the demonstration that some powers are better left unchallenged. Years later, historians would mark the Kepler incident as the moment humanity's true nature became known to the galaxy. Not as warriors or pacifists, but as a species that understood both the value of peace and the necessity of strength. The human approach became the model for interstellar relations. Prepare for war, work for peace, and when forced to choose, act with overwhelming force to ensure the conflict ends quickly. The galaxy was safer for it, and humanity continued to expand, their colonies protected by invisible walls of steel and determination. Their diplomats working tirelessly to ensure those defenses never needed to be used. Peace through strength became more than a motto. It became the foundation of a new galactic order.